Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies lost both games of a back-to-back over the weekend and have fallen to 0-3, playing out the worst-case scenario for the start of the season. I will talk about both losses on this episode. I will also talk about the report that the Grizzlies are going to sign Bismack Biyombo. But before we get there, just a word from Underdog Fantasy. I don't know about you, but I've been loving the first week of the NBA season, and one thing I've been doing is playing daily fantasy against some of my friends and listeners. That's one of the bonuses, or one of my favorite things about Underdog Fantasy. If you want to play in a giant DFS tournament with huge prizes, you can absolutely do that. But the way I play Underdog Fantasy is by doing private drafts with my listeners. We do small stakes drafts among 6 people. So the person who wins is somebody you know. So I truly enjoy doing that on Underdog Fantasy. If you want to get involved with that, consider signing up with the promo code FBBF or by clicking the link in this episode's description. If you use that promo code or link, Underdog will match your opening deposit up to $500. So if you want to play fantasy sports for money, you want to play daily fantasy against me, you can do all of that at Underdog Fantasy. Again, promo code FBBF. All right. Where to start on the Grizzlies' nightmarish beginning to the year? Can we start with this is the first time the Grizzlies have started 0-3 since 2004? Fun fact, that team ended up winning 45 games, so not all terrible. Another fun fact, the last 2 times the Grizzlies have started 0-3, they made a mid-season coaching change. Not that anyone is really asking for that right now. Taylor Jenkins is not the problem. At least I don't think so. I think on the list of problems, he's pretty far down the list. Number 1 being Ja Morant not being available. But the Grizzlies are having a tough go of things. We knew it would be tough. When we had Santi Aldama and Luke Kennard available, I said the first 3 games, I said opening night's a toss-up. That's with Santi Aldama and Luke Kennard being available. Of course, Luke Kennard got hurt in that game, not before missing 5 3-pointers. I said the first game was a toss-up. I said Friday night against the Nuggets, you're going to be projected to lose that one. And then the third game, the winnable game against the Wizards, second night of a back-to-back on the road, going into the Eastern Conference. That's an obvious trap game. Like going into that game, I was like, you know what? I bet the Grizzlies are favored by like 4 or 5. I'm gonna bet the Wizards because I think this is an obvious trap game. And then I looked at it, and the Grizzlies were only favored by 1. And then I'm like, oh wait, should I wager on the Grizzlies? And I texted somebody. I was like, Grizzlies -1. That's a trap, right? Or like that's bait. And they're like, yeah, that's bait. Don't touch that. So like, this was a likely outcome. I mean, obviously they could have won against the Nuggets. They took the lead in the 4th quarter against the Nuggets. They could have won the game against the Pelicans if they made some 3-pointers. And then, once again, you're playing the Wizards and it didn't go your way. So this was just it was one possible outcome, and it's not like a huge outlier, but now you're at the bottom of the standings. You're kind of searching for answers. You're missing key players, and by the way, they're going to be out again on Monday night against the Mavericks. Santi Aldama still out with the sprained ankle. Luke Kennard still in concussion protocol. And then, of course, like your 3 best players who just aren't coming back for a long time, or 3 of your best players. Ja Morant, 22 games to go on the suspension. No Steven Adams, no Brandon Clark. It's a tough situation. And then you have to face Luka Doncic, who's beaten the Grizzlies 8 of his last 9 times he's played the Grizzlies. I mean, you start 0-4, and you're looking up at the Mavericks possibly being 3-0. You're looking up at the Pelicans being undefeated. It's a scary proposition that the Grizzlies are facing right now. But let's try to organize my thoughts. Let's talk about the Nuggets game. The Nuggets game was a shorthanded Grizzlies squad taking on the reigning world champions. It was a Friday night home game, and this loss snapped a regular season streak of 20 straight wins for Friday or Saturday night home games. 20 straight wins. This goes all the way back to a Mavericks game in January of 2022. They did lose a Saturday night playoff game against the Timberwolves, but they'd won every Friday night home game for basically a year and a half. And this game started like all of our games have started this year, with a slow offensive start. Through 3 games, the Grizzlies' offensive rating in the first quarter is 85. Grizzlies are struggling to score, so they fell behind early to the Nuggets. They stayed, like 5 to 10 points away basically for the rest of the game. Both teams found their offensive footing in the second quarter, made some shots. Eventually, they go into the fourth quarter down 10. Now, in the fourth quarter, Derrick Rose sparks a rally, and the Grizzlies do take the lead, like I said. Derrick Rose makes a little pull-up jumper over Aaron Gordon. The Grizzlies get ahead. The FedEx Forum is rocking. We're having a watch party in Nashville. Everyone's having a good time. But then Jokic and Jamal Murray make back-to-back threes. Jokic gets another important putback on an offensive rebound. It was frustrating because the Grizzlies actually rebounded really well on Friday. They rebounded pretty well on Saturday. We were making fun of them a lot among some of my listeners in my Slack channel over on Patreon, that Michael Wallace from Grind City Media wrote a thing that said the Grizzlies vowed to rebound better. And we were like, is that more serious than a blood oath? Is that a covenant to rebound better? How much does vowing to rebound better actually help you rebound better? Well, hey, I poke fun. The Grizzlies did rebound better against the Nuggets and the Wizards. But unfortunately, despite only getting, I think it was 6 offensive rebounds, the Nuggets got 15 second chance points. That's just messed up. So the Grizzlies lost the second chance scoring battle again against the Nuggets. They actually won it against the Wizards, which is the first game, including the preseason this year, where the Grizzlies won second chance scoring. But the Nuggets beat them on second chance scoring with fewer opportunities, and that big Jokic putback hurt. And then, of course, the Grizzlies were down 1 after a Marcus Smart shot, and Aaron Gordon makes a dunk where he steps out of bounds. The refs missed that call. The last 2-minute report confirmed that was a blown call, and that was a huge missed call, which definitely affected the Grizzlies' chances of winning the game. I'm not one to blame single calls or referees, because you know what also caused them to have lower odds of winning the game? Being behind for 46 minutes. The Grizzlies struggled once again. Yes, they scratched and clawed and fought their way into the game, had an exciting clutch final 5 minutes where the game was close the whole time, but you lose that one. And then you go into the Wizards game and you lose that one. Overall performances for the Nuggets game, I think we have to highlight that Desmond Bane had an off game. Desmond Bane only made 4 out of 17 field goal attempts. He missed 9 of his 10 3-pointers. He had 3 assists and 2 turnovers. Jaren Jackson Jr. had a big game, though. A strong bounce back for Jaren after the disappointing game against the Pelicans. Jaren had 21 points and 9 rebounds, got 3 blocks. So he picked up 8 blocks in the first 2 games of the season. Made 3-pointers. I thought Jaren had a very good game against the Nuggets. Marcus Smart had an excellent game. Marcus Smart picked up 20 points, 5 assists, and 5 steals. He became just the 8th player in the Memphis era to have a 20-point, 5-assist, 5-steal game for the Grizzlies. The others, Mike Conley, Jason Williams, Rudy Gay, Ja Morant, Tyus Jones, Kyle Anderson, and DeAnthony Melton. So Marcus Smart, I thought, had a really strong game. Jaren Jackson Jr. had a strong game. Xavier Tillman was excellent. You have to tip your hat to how Xavier Tillman has played throughout the entire opening to this season. But in this game against the Nuggets, Tillman, while also having to guard Jokic, Tillman had 13 points, 8 rebounds, plus he had 3 steals and 2 blocks. So an excellent performance once again from Xavier Tillman. He also mostly held Jokic in check. Yeah, Jokic had 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists, but Jokic had 9 turnovers. This was a frustrating one also because, like, the Grizzlies were forcing turnovers. The Nuggets had 17 turnovers. Unfortunately, the Grizzlies turned the ball over 21 times themselves. They also, once again, failed to make 3-pointers because of Bane, or partly because of Bane going 1 for 10 from 3. The team was just 10 for 33 from downtown. Also, once again, I think you had to be frustrated as a Grizzlies fan, and this is the overarching theme through the first 3 games. You have to be frustrated with how the bench is playing. Yes, Derrick Rose had a big fourth quarter. He finished with 16 points. It took him 14 field goal attempts to get there. He was mostly bad until the fourth quarter. Yes, 16 points in 22 minutes. That's a good spark off the bench, but this guy is shooting constantly. And then Roddy was egregiously bad against the Nuggets, really struggling. Jake LaRavia also not giving you a whole lot. And these are guys we're depending on that we need. Now, notably off the bench, a guy who did have a good game was John Conchar. John Conchar, after not playing in the final 4 preseason games, not playing in the season opener, John Conchar did come in off the bench and statistically didn't do a whole lot. But if you watch the game, Conchar was awesome. Conchar kept a lot of possessions alive. Somehow not credited with any offensive rebounds, but it felt like he was causing the Grizzlies to keep the ball. He was chasing down loose balls. He was making all kinds of plays. He had that one steal on Jokic for his only bucket. He made a steal and then hit a layup. So he only had 2 points, 6 boards, got 2 assists and a steal. But like Conchar, I think you saw was really a catalyst. And even against the Wizards, Conchar had a great game. Conchar's stat line against Washington, he had 9 rebounds, got 2 blocks and 2 steals. Conchar's been awesome. Conchar doing Conchar things. The problem is, this is pretty obvious, and this goes back to the main points of Grits and Grinds over the past year to 2 years. The problem is Conchar's basically our best wing off the bench. I was very adamant I wanted Conchar to be the 12th man again when we built this roster. I feel like Conchar is an 11th or 12th man on a conference championship level team or a team that makes it to the 3rd round of the playoffs. Unfortunately, right now he's like our 8th man or our 7th man. I mean, good for Jitty. Jitty's playing well. Not great for the rest of the guys. Now, I do think a bright spot for this season is that Ziaire Williams continues to play solidly. And overarching, I guess something I'll talk about is how like our standards, our bar for like Grizzly success keeps getting lowered. One instance is just like we are truly celebrating. And honestly, I am excited that Ziaire Williams is playing well. But like, I don't know if we need to throw parades yet that like Ziaire Williams is good. We don't know if Ziaire Williams is good yet, but steps in the right direction. And I think we can continue to be encouraged by the progress Ziaire Williams is showing. Against the Nuggets, he got 9 rebounds, which tied his career high. In the next game against the Wizards, he got 10 rebounds. He had his first career double-double with those career high 10 rebounds. Also added in 16 points. Also took 12 three-pointers. Made 4 of them. But against the Nuggets, you look at Ziaire, you say 11 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. That's the good stuff. Sure, he missed all of his three-point attempts. Also, by the way, attempted a career high and made a career high 5 free throws against the Nuggets. But 11 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists from Ziaire against the Nuggets. And then following that up with 16 points, 10 rebounds, 1 assist against the Wizards. We can be happy that Ziaire is playing well and continues progressing. Now, would he be a starter on another playoff team? Probably not. But we can be encouraged about that. Now, I guess wrapping up the Nuggets game before we get into more of the Wizards loss, I think the general takeaway is just how the Grizzlies offense is still a huge work in progress. Now, we're shooting a lot of three-pointers without Ja Morant. Of course, we're not scoring in the paint. Against the Wizards, spoiler, we're going to make a lot of three-pointers. It's not really going to matter. But the Grizzlies offense, they scored 104 points against the Nuggets, and that's with the help of all of those turnovers. The Nuggets turned the ball over a ton. Somehow the Grizzlies still didn't convert those into that many points, and the offense keeps struggling. And the carryover happened against the Wizards, where they scored 22 points in the first quarter, leading to that, again, 85 offensive rating for the Grizzlies in first quarters this season. The second quarter wasn't a ton better, much like the opening night loss to the Pelicans, where they surrendered a 27-4 extended run over a 6-minute stretch. In this one, they gave up a 25-6 run over a 6-minute stretch. Corey Kispert was destroying the Grizzlies. Also, there were a lot of mental mistakes. There were 2 take fouls by Jaren that were both highly unnecessary. We know Jaren needs to stay out of foul trouble. Baseline, that's an important thing. But both of his fouls were away from the basket and led to a free throw. So we just gave up free throws to the Wizards. The Grizzlies committed multiple. I think they committed 2 8-second violations. So it felt like there were mental mistakes. But just the scoring, it's just not happening. For the season now, after 3 games, the Grizzlies are 25th in offensive rating and 23rd in effective field goal percentage. Now, against the Wizards, the most notable stat for me is the team made 19 three-pointers. That's a massive number of three-pointers. The Grizzlies made 19 three-pointers. They made over 40% of their three-pointers. They made all their free throws, although they only got to the line 9 times. So very few free throw attempts for the Grizzlies. But they made shots, but they did not defend with the proper urgency. And because of that, they dropped their 3rd straight. Now, Bane led the way in this one with 26 points, had 5 assists, but also had 5 turnovers. He made 4 out of his 10 three-pointers. Jaren's offense, once again, a little bit discouraging. 16 points on only 2 out of 8 on 2-pointers, which is not what you want to see. He had 5 rebounds, got 1 block, got 1 steal, did have 2 assists, but they got to find more ways to get Jaren the basketball. They got to find more ways for him to score in the paint. I think Taylor Jenkins keeps mentioning they need to touch the paint at least. Yeah, we're not scoring in the interior like we would if Ja Morant were around, but they've got to be more of a threat on the inside so then you can set up the outside shot. They took 47 threes, made a great percentage of them, but unfortunately they shot a terrible percentage on 2-pointers. So that is a problem offensively. Marcus Smart had 9 points and 6 assists. He got 2 steals and 2 blocks. Marcus Smart defensively been very, very active, been as advertised. He's also racking up all those deflections. So I've been encouraged by what I've seen of Marcus Smart. Honestly, I feel like Marcus Smart's playing on the higher end of what we're going to get from Marcus Smart. Like, his field goal percentage is over 50% for the season so far. So, like, there's going to be some regression there from Marcus Smart, but hopefully maybe it'll be made up for by some improvements from Jaren, and Bane can play more like he did in the first game and not like the next two. Yeah, Bane had 26, but it still wasn't, I don't know. I have a really high standard. I really hope for a lot of extreme all-NBA level play from Desmond Bane. Now, as far as the other performances in this one, I already talked some about Ziaire Williams, 16 points and 10 rebounds. It's notable, by the way. I guess I'll just repeat it all again in case I left anything out. I'm not sure I said that the 12 three-pointers attempted by Ziaire, that is a career high. So over the weekend, Ziaire had career highs, single-game career highs for three-pointers attempted, free throws made and attempted, and then he tied his career high for rebounds in a game on Friday and then set a new career high for rebounds in a game on Saturday. So Ziaire making the most of his opportunity as a starter. And also, again, the bench. It's bad, man. The bench is not very good. Conchar, very effective, which I already mentioned, but like generally, we're getting outworked by other benches that I don't even think are thought of as being as that elite. Like the Pelicans, remember? They had Kyra Lewis Jr., Jordan Hawkins, Matt Ryan, Larry Nance Jr., and Dyson Daniels. The Nuggets bench, all right, the Nuggets bench is just a mystery. Like they have Christian Brown. Reggie Jackson destroyed us, by the way. It was like the second Reggie Jackson game for that Friday night Nuggets game. The first one, of course, the heartbreaking and crushing home loss in the playoffs against the Thunder. Reggie Jackson was cooking us. Like, yes, Derrick Rose, again, great fourth quarter, but got destroyed by Reggie Jackson the entire game. So that doesn't really totally make up for it. And then the Wizards. The Wizards bench is so much better than the Grizzlies bench. Like the Wizards having DeLon Wright and Corey Kispert and like Mike Muscala and Bilal Coulibaly, they just worked us over. Oh, also Danilo Gallinari. Danilo Gallinari made Roddy look foolish a couple of times. I mean, he's a professional scorer. The guy basically is a mercenary now, just points off the bench. The Wizards bench is way better than the Grizzlies bench. And I know we're missing Luke Kennard, and I know we're missing Santi Aldama. But I found that highly concerning. That now 3 games, our bench just cannot match up. And like, yes, Ja Morant is to blame by not being here. Yeah, we can't control the injuries. But we can control carrying 5 to 6 guys who really just aren't that good NBA players. And it's what we've been doing for a long time. Jake LaRavia, not there yet. Was 2 out of 9 from the field. He made 2 shots in the first quarter, missed all of his shots after the first quarter. 9 field goal attempts for Jake. Our preseason shots per minute leader continued getting him up. Now, Roddy, statistically, so maybe I could be wrong here. So Roddy, statistically, nice looking game. He made his 3-pointers. The entire team, again, made the 3-pointers. Roddy, 3 out of 4 from downtown. Roddy, 14 points and 6 rebounds. But watching the game, I screamed, Roddy, what are you doing? Multiple times. So like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my assessment was too biased against David Roddy in this game. Anecdotally, it feels like he's getting beat for and ones constantly. I feel like he's given up at least 4 and ones this season. I don't have the stats exactly in front of me. I mean, I guess I could look this up, but I'll be honest, I don't know how to look that up. I could probably figure it out, but I don't have time to right now. I feel like Roddy's getting destroyed defensively a lot. When he's playing quicker guys, he's just getting beat and then he's fouling to compound the mistakes. Like Ziaire, 16 points, 10 rebounds, good job. Did not provide much resistance against Denny Avdia, who just schooled him a few times, going right to the basket. Ziaire did not slow down Corey Kispert the times he was on him. So like the defensive effort was not really there. Derrick Rose had 7 points on 8 shots. had 5 assists, but also 3 turnovers. He also had one of those 8-second violations that the Grizzlies had where he went the wrong way. DeLon Wright got a deflection, knocked the ball out of bounds, so the Grizzlies were inbounding with 19 seconds left. You have to get the ball across before the shot clock hits 15. He caught the inbounds pass on the sideline going backwards away from our basket. Like, oh, well, this is going to be an 8-second violation. So he had 3 turnovers, and that doesn't even count the 8-second violation. That was basically all his fault because that's registered as a team turnover. So like Derrick Rose was gross. Matt Herdlicka, who writes a Patreon about the Grizzlies, he called Derrick Rose Shelvin Mack with better branding. Kudos to you. Brave stance, hilarious stance, also correct stance. I'm hopeful Derrick Rose plays well. Yes, Derrick Rose offensively was the spark that brought the Grizzlies back by making 3-pointers. Derrick Rose has made 3-pointers through his 3 games despite making 3-pointers. His effective field goal percentage is terrible. And he's shooting and turning the ball over constantly. He's not making 2-pointers. He's missing them all. So, like, that's kind of a problem. And if you want to compare Derrick Rose's stats through the Shelvin Mack era, if you don't know, Shelvin Mack was signed to be a backup for the Grizzlies during J.B. Bickerstaff's year as head coach. And to the chagrin of Grizzlies fans, J.B. Bickerstaff loved himself some Shelvin Mack. And I remember this specifically. The lineups with Shelvin Mack and JaMychal Green got annihilated every single game. Annihilated. And it seemed to be the crutch that Bickerstaff always went to. But anyways, Derrick Rose, please play better than Shelvin Mack did. Right now, their stats, very, very, very comparable. But the Grizzlies bench remains a problem. And hopefully we're getting a little bit of help with that, with the announced signing of Bismack Biyombo. Let's talk about that and some other general stats and observations right after this short break. If you are shopping for tickets on the secondary market, if you want to go to an NBA game for less than face value, if you want to go to an NFL game, if you want to go to an MLS playoff game, if you're trying to get into anything that has tickets, well, check out SeatGeek.com. They have all the games and all the events at the best prices. They have an easy color-coded map to let you know what the best deals are. And if you use promo code FASTBREAK, they will give you $20 off your first purchase. So if you've never tried SeatGeek, get a free $20 on me. Use that promo code FASTBREAK. Try out SeatGeek and get yourself a deal on any live sport, concert, or theater event. All right, just a few more notes and observations from the Wizards game and the first 3 games, and then I'll talk about the Bismack Biyombo signing. Derrick Rose did draw the team's first charge of the season against the Wizards. It's the first charge of the Marcus Smart era. Good job there. Going back to the Grizzlies' offensive woes, I think another concerning thing is I don't think they've played an elite defensive team yet. I mean, the Nuggets are a good defensive team when they want to be sometimes. They don't normally want to be, and of course, they gave up all those turnovers, and we still struggled. The Pelicans, I don't think, are a good defensive team, although they currently have the best defensive rating in the NBA, thanks to what the Grizzlies did against them, and then thanks to a blowout win they had over the Knicks. So maybe I'm wrong about the Pelicans. I look at the roster, and I'm like, they don't have any good defenders playing outside of Herb Jones, but maybe I'm wrong there. But the Grizzlies have struggled against, the Wizards, Nuggets, and Pelicans, and none of those teams are like, oh, it's a top 5, top 10 defense, I would assume. The Grizzlies, their defense, it's good when Jaren plays, and it's not good when he doesn't play. Stop me if you've heard that before. The Grizzlies, after 3 games, have a 99 defensive rating with Jaren Jackson Jr. on the court, a 119 rating when he's not on the court. Against the Wizards, Ziaire Tillman, he had 8 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. Did not get a steal or block. After 2 games, Ziaire was 4th in the NBA in combined blocks and steals. He didn't get any against the Wizards, but he did make both of his 3-point attempts. Good job, Ziaire Tillman, continuing to launch 3-pointers. That ties a career high with the 2 makes. But now, after 3 games, he is 4 out of 10 on 3-pointers. I am proud of you, Ziaire. That's something he's clearly been working on, and I think adding that to his game basically makes him that much more effective. And frankly, he's been one of the biggest bright spots of the first 3 games. His first 2 performances were outstanding. He played well against the Wizards. Like, if he were 2 inches taller, maybe 3 inches taller, he would really be a thing. But like, Xavier Tillman has been excellent, and I hope he continues playing this well. John Conchar, I might have already said this, and if so, maybe I'll edit it out. But against the Wizards, he had 9 rebounds, also 2 blocks, 2 steals, 1 assist, only 1 turnover. He made a 3-pointer. We got to find that stroke again from downtown, John. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But Conchar remains a great asset off the bench. The problem is always the rest of the bench. We need players to be better than Conchar, but right now Conchar clearly, I think, playing better than LaRavia or Roddy. Kenneth Lofton Jr. played. Hey, Kenneth Lofton Jr. played his first minutes of the season. He got in for 5 of them. He drew a couple of fouls, which is good. That has value. He picked up an assist, did not get a rebound. He missed his only shot. With the signing of Bismack Biyombo, which is imminent, which is due, which I guess I will talk about now, this is basically a 25-game audition, I think, for both players, for Bismack and for Kenneth Lofton Jr. The addition of Bismack Biyombo makes a ton of sense because the Grizzlies need rebounding. They need shot blocking, and that is what Bismack does. He is a very limited player who has a certain role, and he plays that role well. So the Grizzlies, according to Shams Charania, are going to sign Bismack Biyombo to the roster spot that will be created after the Grizzlies' 5th game when they can place Ja Morant on the suspended players list. Initially, we thought that spot might end up going to Shaq Harrison or another guard or something. But with the Steven Adams injury news, it became obvious, hey, we need another big. And so after Wednesday night's game, the Grizzlies are allowed to add a new player, and it's reportedly going to be Bismack Biyombo. I think he will step in to, I think, an emergency role. I think when Santi Aldama is healthy, I don't know if Bismack is going to play, but maybe he will. I would think they might still keep like basically a 3-man big rotation between Jaren and Xavier and Santi, but maybe Biyombo will go ahead and get in that. Now, Biyombo is a very limited player. He has terrible hands. He's bad at catching passes, but he's a solid defender. He can't shoot outside of like 6 feet. You basically only want him to dunk. But he knows his role, and he should help the Grizzlies. And I think it's a positive step towards just get veterans who can do tasks to fill in around your best players. This is something I've wanted for a couple of years. And they probably would have done this anyways, just based on their roster situation and their injury situation. But it's like, hey, instead of the 15th roster spot being on a rookie project, like instead of last year, oh, why do we have an undersized point guard project for our 15th man in Kennedy Chandler? What if we just got a veteran who could do stuff, who we know has a proven like niche in the NBA? So Bismack does have that. Although Bismack was not on a roster, okay? He's not that valuable. And this goes to like the my sadness over how low the bar for Grizzlies excitement has gotten. Like 2 years ago, we won 56 games. We gave the Warriors a great series in the second round. We had a young core of a bunch of stud players who were under contract for a long time. We had Ja and Jaren and Desmond and also Brandon Clark, and like Tyus and Dylan weren't very old. We had DeAnthony Melton, and then we had like the avenues to having salary cap space. We had all our own first round picks. We had multiple extra first round picks coming our way, and now we're like, hey, Ziaire Williams doesn't look terrible. LaRavia and Roddy did okay things. Derrick Rose had a competent 6-minute stretch. Guys, guess what? We got Bismack Biyombo. Like, we are down bad as Grizzlies fans. We've gone from Man, I think we might be a dynasty too. Conchar's really playing well for us. Hope he can keep that up and we can stay above water, stay afloat until Job returns from his suspension. Things are kind of dark over here, man. I know this is hopefully this is the nadir, or maybe losing to the Mavericks on Monday night going 0-4. Hopefully that's the nadir. Hopefully it doesn't get any darker and deeper in the hole we're going down, but man, we've been through a lot. We're getting scarred, beaten, and bruised being Grizzlies fans over the last however many months. I mean, hey, I hope Bismack Biyombo is a great pickup. I hope Ziaire Williams keeps playing well. But like high-fiving that Ziaire got 10 rebounds in a game, not to take away my actual excitement that he got 10 rebounds in a game. Our bar for excitement and being thrilled and optimistic. Woo! We are scraping the bottom of the barrel. Finally, we should acknowledge our guy, Tyus Jones, for the revenge game against his former team. Tyus had 14 points, 7 assists, and of course, 0 turnovers, and got the win. And a statistical note, this is something I heard on the Bally's sports broadcast that I missed. Jaren Jackson Jr.'s 5-block game in the season opener. That was his 27th regular season game with 5 or more blocks, and that put him in first place all time in franchise history for the most such games, breaking a tie he held with Pau Gasol. So good job, Jaren. Congratulations, Jaren. Anyways, the Grizzlies are back at it on Monday night against Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Then they go on a road trip. Hopefully they will rack up some wins. They're playing the Jazz and the Trailblazers. Hopefully winnable games. Again, the home game on Monday night, hopefully winnable game. Teams in the NBA with their backs against the wall usually can perform and find a way to compete. We don't want to fall to 0-4. Again, last time we were 0-4 was also 2004. By the way, I didn't remember this, but I thought this was funny. The Grizzlies' first season in Memphis, they lost their first 8 games. And then their second season in Memphis, they lost their first 13 games of this season. That second season, this is the 2003 season, they started 0-13 actually, but Sidney Lowe got fired after the first 8 games, and they brought in Hubie Brown. So that's the episode for today. If you want to support the creation of these episodes, go to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you join my Patreon, you can join the Slack channel. You can join the Grits and Grinds Slack channel and talk with me about Grizzly stuff whenever you want. You also get access to bonus content. I'm putting a bonus episode of Fast Break Breakfast up over there that comes out on Tuesday. So if you want to directly support the creation of these shows, the best way to do that is patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Also, if you want to play Underdog Fantasy, remember that promo code FBBF, and then you can come play Underdog Fantasy with me. All right, hope you guys have a great Monday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.